our next candidate is Steve Lyon.
Thank you, Randy and Josh. Really appreciate what US Inventor is doing here. I think it's a very important initiative that's going to make a big difference in the end when we start getting representation of the most sincere, most believed in inventors on a panel like that. My name is Steve Lyon. I'm president of Inventors Network. We're a Minnesota-based nonprofit, all-volunteer organization that helps our members turn their dreams into reality. I'm going to save my opinions, and I do have them, about patents, and I think you'll find that they are in line with many of yours. But our members really do yearn for this sort of reform. And I hear from a lot of them, and I also hear from inventors outside my club, and through the years, hundreds and thousands of inventors on various issues to include this. And as a result of that, in my own opinions, I've become an advocate for this cause. And I've kind of looked at it from an outside the box basis that I'll talk about in a little bit, that what kind of changes can be made. But I'll talk about that shortly, but I'd like to refer people to the landing page when it exists and highlight some of my background there, as well as now quickly. But you know, I've got a diverse background. I've worn a lot of hats. It's just not one area. And I've got corporate experience in sales, marketing, management with some of the world's largest and best marketers, Procter & Gamble, Gallo Winery. A lot of my inventions have been geared towards the consumer product marketplace. They're simple, they're not technical, but that's the other thing. I'm also an inventor and an entrepreneur. I've got 2 US patents. I've licensed ideas that are both patented and non-patented at a 75% rate. I also believe in the advocacy. I'm a grappled war veteran, I would say. I was there in I think it was 14 or 15 with Paul and Randy and Adrian when it was like out of a movie. We went to Washington, D.C., and we took down the so-called patent troll reform, and we won because we defeated it. And the odds of that were slim to none. And so we were there, and that's, I think, when US Inventor got their start. But like I say, it was out of a movie. It was a beautiful thing, and I continued my advocacy since. And you'll see the highlights on the landing page. But the other highlight I would say is I've got a track record of serving on boards and serving effectively on boards. I've been on probably a half a dozen boards through the years. And, you know, putting this information together, I realized one thing. I've become president of each one of those boards at some point. And I think that's an important consideration when you think about who you want to put on this board, who's going to be effective on this board, and who's going to eventually be in a position to lead it, be listened to, and do they have a background for that? It might be too weighted in one area to be effective, and I think you'll see that I'm very well balanced, and I have I feel it's an advantage of having so many inventors in our organization. We're a very successful group. We're one of the oldest and largest in the nation, and I do get feedback from them, and I hear from many others, and I will continue to get that, and I will serve dutifully on any board I'll be put on. Thank you.
What do you see as the biggest problem at the USPTO?
The biggest problem is multiple, obviously. It just goes too far back doing the same thing. And I think that the members that are probably on this committee, I don't know if too many people know what they do, but my guess is they're status quo. And I said something earlier about outside the box thinking, and I think that needs to be applied to patents. We're inventors. And when you do read the Constitution, it talks about securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. So when I think writing, I think about copyright. And when I think of discoveries, I'm thinking invention. So it's really divided in two. And the copyright side of things has been very well served. And the discovery side has been has created a huge bureaucracy, this arcane that uses words that hardly anyone understands, takes years. But what do you get on the on the copyright side? A wedding photographer can build a business around the fact that that person cannot have their product easily copied, that you have to go buy those photographs from him or her. On the copyright side, you get this, the FBI enforcing their intellectual property. On our side, you get a $500,000 bill to go to court. And so I really think that the system has to be revisited from really that standpoint. Look at what you're doing over here. Let's learn. Yes, some people might say we're comparing the apples to oranges, but let's learn from the people that grow apples and the people that grow oranges. And what can we learn? I think there's a lot that can be learned by looking at, hey, it's really one-sided when you look at what the Constitution said and who it was supposed to protect and what can inventors do. On the copyright side, there's it's not done by the patent office, but it's pretty much prearranged if you write a song, the kind of money you will get, the kind of royalties you will get. If you perform that song, it's prearranged. Now, that wouldn't be the patent office that would do that, but we need a system that eventually that accommodates that for inventors as well.
Answer the question describing your invention and the process. Steve Lyon.
So we're talking about how do you change people's minds, corporations, and I have acted on a slogan that I call overlooking the obvious. I see it so many times in the corporate world where they overlook what they should be doing. And as I mentioned, my background was consumer products, and my first invention I came out with about 15 years ago. And it was based on the fact that if you were to survive a heart attack, one of the best things you can do is take aspirin at the time. In fact, the EMTs, when they come to a scene, that's what they will give to you in most cases if you're not allergic. And I was watching the Bayer advertisements at the time, and they were mentioning this. And I kept saying to myself, where would one get an aspirin? And so I developed a whole program around why don't you give the aspirin holder away when you sell a box of aspirin. I developed two holders because I figure everybody back then has their keychain and they have a wallet. Now maybe I have one for the phone, but everybody carries that. So you want to always have something like that on hand. And how would you do it? Would you carry a bottle of aspirin in your pocket? No. And so I came up with two pill holders, one that fits on your keychain and one that would fit in your wallet, where you can carry aspirin and other things, so that you always have that in the event that you're gonna have an event like a heart attack. It works for other event-driven things as well, but I was able to license. I did speak to Bayer a couple of times. Sometimes it's very hard to get them to agree to things, but I was able to license it to the Bic Pen Company for their promotional product division. And so that's how I approach my inventions. You know, what isn't being done? Find a hole and fill it.
All right, Steve Lyon, you're up.
Thank you. I love advocacy, and anytime I've spent time with Adrian and Josh and Randy and Jeff, which I have in the past, it's been one of the best days of my life. And I feel like I represent the many inventors. I hear from them, and I'm able to do that. I suggest you go to my landing page, and there are two moments under advocacy I call standalone moments, where I've been able to convince an entire room differently than what they thought before. One was a bill where I met with a congressional committee in, it was actually South Dakota, and I was told I had no chance. It got a unanimous vote out of that committee. There was one other person I needed to convince, the governor. He didn't like the idea, but they did end up they changed governors. He actually went to jail, and a few years later, it was able to happen. So that's a standalone moment. There's others. I think you'll get a feel for that, and my experience on boards and how I've been effective, and how I can work well on a board and move into a lead role. Thank you very much.